Way Partner Agency. We are located on the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. Today is Monday, May the 7th, and your radio host is Wanda. I will be reading from the Sunday Fayetteville Observer. Need to know. Cumberland County Agricultural Hall of Fame. Nominations are being accepted for candidates' induction into the Hall of Fame for 2018. The Cumberland County Agricultural Hall of Fame honors county residents who have made significant contributions to agriculture, home economics, youth development, or rural communities. Nomination forms are available by calling 321-6405 on the Cooperative Extension website at cumberland.ces.ncsu.edu. Completed nomination forms must be received by 5 p.m. June 30th. Forms may be mailed to the Cumberland County Center, North Carolina Cooperative Extension, Charlie Rose Agri-Expo Center, 301 Mountain Drive, Fayetteville, NC 28306. Faxed to Forms may be mailed to the Cumberland County Center, North Carolina Cooperative Extension, Charlie Rose Agri-Expo Center, 301 East Mountain Drive, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 28306. Fax to 321-6883 or email to County Extension Director Lisa Childers at lisa_childers@ncsu.edu. USO of NC Military Culture Workshop. The USO of North Carolina and the North Carolina Arts Council will present a free workshop for local artists and other members of the arts community on military culture basics and building programs to support military service members, families, and veterans. The workshop will be May 19th from 10 a.m. to 12 noon at the Arts Council of Fayetteville/Cumberland County, 301 Hay Street. Register at fayarts-training-event-bright.com. DIY Block Party. Power Up NC will host a DIY block party on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Smith Recreation Center, 1520 Slater Avenue. The event will include interactive workshops for residents to learn how to do improvements on their homes, information about ways people can weatherize their homes and lower their energy bills, giveaway, and free food and music. For more information, call 910-568-5710. We want to hear from you. Please submit your events in writing at least 10 days in advance. Email calendar@fayobserver.com or fax details to 486-3545. For questions, call 486-3500. Livewire. First question. Regarding Barbara Bush, who is the fifth child they keep talking about? The papers and the TV didn't ever say who this is. How many children did the Bushes have, and who are they? This is from MP in Fayetteville. The answer is Livewire does not know who they are in your question, MP, or the context of the fifth child statement. Perhaps you heard it in the news coverage recently of the death and funeral of former First Lady Barbara Bush. But Livewire can tell you that Barbara Bush and former husband George H.W. Bush had 6 children altogether. These are former President George W. Bush, Robin Bush, who died of leukemia at age 3, Jeb Bush, the former Florida governor who ran for president in 2016, Neil Bush, Marvin Bush, and Dorothy Bush Cope. Their 73-year marriage also included the enjoyment of 17 grandchildren and 7 great-grandchildren. Theirs was the longest marriage of any presidential couple. She was only one of 2 first ladies who had a child who was elected president. The other was Abigail Adams, wife of John Adams and the mother of John Quincy Adams. Public safety. The following are arrests in Cumberland County. Melissa Gail Adams, 36 of the 3900 block of Cleo Place, was charged Saturday with larceny by removing, destroying, or deactivating an anti-shoplifting device, possession of stolen property, and misdemeanor larceny. Bill was set at $1,000. Savion McLaurin of the 3000 block of Paddlefish Drive was charged Friday with robbery with dangerous weapon, larceny, and possession of stolen property. Bill was set at $40,000. Break-ins, Odom Road and Hope Mills reported at 8:54 p.m. Friday. Nothing reported missing. Vehicle break-ins, Lacewood Court reported at 7:04 a.m. Friday. Nothing reported missing. Early voting done. Tuesday, primary next. Voters casting their ballots early at the Cumberland County Board of Elections on Saturday had to work their way through a gauntlet of candidates and surrogates making a last-minute attempt to sway their decision. About 90 campaign signs lined the driveway and sidewalks at the board's office on Fountainhead Lane. About 25 people, including at least 5 candidates, were handing out information and talking to the voters as they made their way to the polling place. The scene was less hectic at the East Regional Library on Clinton Road, where 3 supporters of candidates for Cumberland County Sheriff spoke to voters before they cast their ballots. More than 600 cast their ballots at 6 sites in the county on the last day of early voting. In all, 7,229 voters cast their ballot before Tuesday's primary, according to the Board of Elections. This year's total was 1,462 more than the number of voters who cast their ballots early during the primary in 2014, the most recent comparable non-presidential election year. Interest in this year's primary was high because of multiple candidates in the Democratic and Republican primaries for sheriff, and 2 contests between incumbents and challengers who narrowly lost 2 years ago. In the sheriff's race, incumbent Ennis W. Wright is facing challenges from Jeff Marks and Danny Davis in the Democratic Party. Charlie Baxley, Carlton Sally, LaRue Wyndham, and Victor B. Starling are running in the Republican primary. Wright was appointed to fill the unexpired term of Moose Butler, who retired December 3rd, 2016. The winners of the primaries will run against each other in the November election. The Democratic Party in State Senate District 21 is a rematch from 2016, when incumbent Ben Clark defeated Naveed Aziza by about 1,300 votes in an election in which 23,566 votes were cast. The Republican primary for the 9th Congressional District is a race between Robert Pittenger, Clarence W. Goins Jr., and Mark Harris. Harris nearly beat Pittenger in 2016. Goins is from Eastover. Floyd Hodges and his wife Leslie were among the more than 170 people who voted at the Board of Elections office Saturday. They cast their ballots less than 30 minutes before early voting ended at 1 p.m. The couple who live off Morganton Road said they like not facing the crowds of people who will be voting Tuesday. "We had run all our errands this morning and had a few minutes," he said. "I told her that so many people have died and sacrificed for this right. There's a lot of things we could do today, but we've got to vote." Hodges said he researches the candidate's position before he casts his ballot. "I take it very seriously," he said. Ronnie and Diane Nichols were among 57 people who voted Saturday at the East Regional Library near Cape Fear High School. "I believe in democracy," said Ronnie Nichols, who is pastor of the Congregational Christian Church in Hope Mills. Nichols said he and his wife voted on Saturday in part because he will be working at the polls Tuesday. They had to wait for a few minutes to vote on Saturday when they arrived about 11:15 a.m. because the fire alarm was going off. A pizza in an oven apparently set off the alarm, according to the poll workers. Voting continued after firefighters from the Vander Fire Department checked the building. Beth Beard was one of the coordinators for the early voting at the library. "We had a pretty good day yesterday, but today's been pretty slow," she said late Saturday morning. "Today being the last day, I was hoping it would pick up." Terry Robertson, Board of Elections Director, said she had expected a higher turnout for early voting. "I have had a hard time understanding why people don't vote," she said. Commissioners to consider human services changes. County commissioners are expected to discuss Monday whether to take over the duties of the Board of Health. The commissioners are scheduled to discuss at their regular meetings the possibility of changing the way the county's human services agencies are organized. Commissioners have four options: assume the oversight role for one or both of the health and social services departments, combine the two departments and appoint a board to oversee the consolidated department, combine the two departments with the commissioners assuming the role of the oversight board, leave the boards and departments unchanged. Much of the attention regarding the potential changes have focused on the health department, which has been under scrutiny for more than a year. The jail health program, which the department was running, lost its accreditation in October 2016 after an accreditation agency said it found serious issues with the program. County commissioners decided last year to turn the program over to a private company. In July, commissioners learned that some women examined at the health department clinics and found to have abnormal pap smears may never have been told the results. Health officials said the department has successfully contacted 129 of the 159 women. If the commissioners decide to take over the health board's duties, they would have to schedule a public hearing with at least 30 days notice and adopt a resolution outlining the changes. Also, at Monday's meeting, commissioners are expected to hold a closed session to discuss a legal matter. The meeting is scheduled for 9 a.m. in room 118 of the courthouse. Methodist grads really ready to find a new one thing. The ceremony. The 55th Annual Spring Commencement Ceremony, 2 p.m. Saturday, Crown Coliseum. Number of degrees conferred, 226 graduate degrees were conferred. A separate ceremony for graduate students took place Friday. The speaker, Ben E. Hancock, Jr., 66, has been Methodist president since March of 2011. Hancock, the fourth president of the university, which was chartered in 1956 and opened 4 years later, retires May 31st. The university also conferred an honorary doctorate of humane letters degree to Fayetteville businessman and longtime Methodist University supporter Asa Howard Bullard, Jr. The message to graduates. Hancock, who has been well known for pulling up a chair to eat lunch alongside students in the cafeteria and who was a presence at most student-centered events, referred to an entreaty he has made many times to students during his tenure. Find your one thing. For each of us, our one thing is different, he said. The past 10,000 hours you've prepared to walk across this stage. Methodist University is a place that has allowed you to find your one thing. Now you'll have to find a new one thing. And once you find your new one thing, it's important to use it to help others find theirs. If you don't value people, the rest doesn't matter. Millennial Moment. Because this was the largest graduating class in school history, this commencement ceremony was the first to be held off campus. Many graduates captured photos and videos of themselves, with some even video chatting or calling people in the audience as they marched to their seats. What I'll remember most about college, I will remember most of the community and family feeling Methodist has, said Sharon Moran, who graduated with a degree in environmental and occupational management. No matter what organization you're a part of or what class you are in, it's always there. It's a part of the culture of Methodists. What to do with it? For Hannah Boyles, who graduated with a degree in music education and percussion performance, Methodist has prepared her for a life of adventure. I've gone to England, I've gotten to sing in Carnegie Hall, and I've gotten multiple job opportunities, she said. I'm moving to Florida to teach, but I'm also going to Scotland to compete in the World Pipe Band competition in August. I'm excited for what's to come after that. Moment of poignancy. Kayla McLaughlin, who graduated with a political science degree and served as the 2718 Student Government Association president, was presented with the L. Stacy Weaver Award. The winner is determined by faculty nominations and an anonymous vote. As her daughter's name was announced, Kayla's mother, Elizabeth, who is hearing impaired, learned the news from a sign language interpreter. Joyous surprise spread across her face, and she was joined in with the rest of the family to cheer enthusiastically. And with this article is included a picture of 4 of the graduates with eyes full of hope. So we say congratulations to them. More than 4,000 celebrate at UNCP. The ceremony. The University of North Carolina's Pembroke Springs commencement, 9 a.m. Saturday, Lowry Bell Tower, Quad South. The graduate school ceremony was at 7 p.m. Friday in the Gibbons Performing Arts Center. The number of degrees conferred, 686. Undergraduate, 567. Graduate, 119. Speaker, U.S. Senator Richard Burr was the keynote speaker for a gathering of more than 4,000. The Republican senator serving his 3rd term representing North Carolina is chairman of the U.S. Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. The message to graduates: after thanking active duty and retired military in attendance, Burr, who was delivering his 2nd commencement address at UNCP, recognized the importance of the university's service to the region since its founding in 1887. Burr encouraged graduates to use the same values that inspired the founding of UNCP to change their world, saying that change happens when individuals make conscious efforts to pursue something better for their community, not just for themselves. Burr referenced history and further encouraged graduates to take lessons learned and use them as part of your motivation to always learn, always teach, never take for granted efforts and sacrifices of those who came before you. Millennial moment. Speakers encourage students to embrace connection with other outside of the digital world. Burr encouraged graduates to go and make a personal connection with the people who made their journey happen, choosing to call or deliver a message in person. Quoting the late Barbara Bush, Burr remarked, "You will never regret time spent with a husband, a child, a friend, or parent." Earlier in the ceremony, graduates and SGA President Dahir Fernandez encouraged his fellow graduates to live a fulfilling and happy life, offering the following advice: values, purpose, friends, faculty, and staff, experiences and stories, and those we meet along the way. Those are the truly important things in life. What I remember most about college: twins Victoria and Alexandria Locklear, who earned degrees in biology with biomedical emphasis. Both say they will most remember the friends they have made and the professors who took the time with students, cared about each of them as individuals, and encouraged them to be successful every day. What to do with it? Marie Gauman earned a bachelor's in mass communications with concentrations in public relations and journalism, and is returning to her native Sweden to pursue a career in public affairs, working with the Swedish and American governments. Moment of poignancy: Chancellor Cummings awarded back-to-back degrees to the mother-daughter duo of Alexis Hurd and Princess Hurd. Alexis earned her bachelor's in criminal justice, and Princess earned her bachelor's in sociology. The two embraced center stage to celebrate their accomplishments together. And then with this article is Courtney Boger, and she shows off her championship ring for women's soccer during the commencement ceremonies. She has a big smile. Incumbent faces challenger in primary. Incumbent Cumberland County Clerk of Superior Court Lisa Scales will face opposition from newcomer Ashonda Hooper in the primary election. Scales, 52, and a lifelong resident of Cumberland County, has served as the clerk since August. Hooper, 43, has lived in the area for 7 months. Both women have been charged with misdemeanors in the past. Scales entered a guilty plea for a simple, worthless check of $35.05 in 1994 and was ordered to repay it. Hooper entered a guilty plea of a simple, worthless check of $34.81 in 1994 and for $125 in 2003 and was ordered to repay both. Hooper was found guilty of 2 charges of assault with a deadly weapon in Robeson County in 1992. Details of those charges were not available from the Robeson County courthouse, and she did not return requests for comment. She did disclose those charges on a questionnaire to the Observer. I'm going to interrupt this article for an announcement. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our post office box number is 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call us at 910-672-1600 or our toll-free number 1-844-709-5656. Your radio host is Wanda, and I am proud to serve you today. Okay, back to our article. The winner of the primary election will advance to the general election to run against Cindy Blackwell, a Republican from Wade. Scales took over the office to complete the remainder of Kim Tucker's term. Tucker retired on July 31st. The term expired at the end of 2018. Scales has been an employee at the Cumberland County Register of Deeds office for most of her adult life. She started working in the 80s and worked her way up the ranks to become a senior assistant register. She was selected by senior resident Superior Court Judge Jim Ammons. Scales said she would tap into her decades of experience from working the courthouse. Among her skills, Scales said she is proficient in human resource matters, training, scheduling, and quality control. I've had firsthand experience delivering services as well as helping to formulate policies and direction of an elected office charged with directly serving the public every day, she said in a questionnaire from the Observer. Our dedicated team of more than 90 public servants is the key to any leadership success. The experience of leading this office has been a blessing and the highlight of my professional life thus far. Hooper said she has a degree in early childhood education and 20 years of experience in customer service occupations. She said she has served as the chief executive officer for the nonprofit group Hoopstar Organization Star LLC. She said she established Robeson County's annual MLK Parade and Prayer Luncheon. She said her 20 years of experience working with people through different organizations makes her the ideal candidate. Among her skills, Hooper said she is an excellent communicator that can effectively deal with changes, delays, or unexpected events. She said she has the ability to face hostile people and work under pressure. Hooper also said she works well in teams and has the ability to create positive morale. Furthermore, I am coachable, teachable, and trainable, she said. I believe I have the ability to nurture the strengths within the clerk's office and impact the challenges. Maxie Dove III loved Hope Mills and sports. During a long career in sales, Maxie Gary Dove III was occasionally given the opportunity for advancement, but that would have meant leaving the town he grew up in and loved. Hope Mills was home, and he was never going to leave Hope Mills, said Dove's son, Maxie Dove IV. Dove, a longtime coach and former chairman of the Town Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, died April 17th. He was 71. Dove, who left behind a wife, Kay, 2 sons, Maxie IV and Kevin, and a grandson, Cameron, and several extended family members, was remembered for his service to the Hope Mills Recreation. He was very involved, very knowledgeable about recreation in Hope Mills, said Kenny Bullock, director of the town's Parks and Recreation Department. He always wanted to make sure Parks and Recreation was a top priority. He wanted it to be bigger and better. The son of Maxie Gary Jr. and Maxine Jordan Dove lived in Hope Mills all his life. He went to the former Hope Mills High his entire school career. For most of those years, sports was one of Dove's passion. He was an avid Duke fan. Hope Mills Town Commissioner Jerry Legg was a friend of Dove for more than 30 years and calls him the finest gentleman I've ever met. He said the two would joke about their rival college sports loyalties. If Carolina beat Duke, I didn't rub it in. If Duke beat Carolina, he didn't rub it in, Legg said. But Dove also supported sports on a more local level. He was a baseball coach for more than 20 years and served as president of the Hope Mills Youth Association. He was a field supervisor for Brower Park and was named a lifetime honorary member of the Town Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee after stepping down as chairman. Maxie Dove IV said his father enjoyed not only the sports but also the opportunity to instill life lessons in the young people he coached. It's not just about learning the sport, hitting the ball, running, catching. It's about learning to be responsible, learning to be accountable, learning to be a team player. That's the stuff he enjoyed. Away from sports, Dove enjoyed spending time at White Lake, and he doted on his grandson. He was also a board member of Cotton Volunteer Fire Department, where his son Keith serves. Kevin. But always Dove was drawn back to the town he called home and the fields he took such pride in. That was his home, and during his last few years of failing health, that's what he kept telling me. His goal was to get healthy so he could get back to his ball field, his son said. Arming adults in school risky. They are the good guys with guns, the National Rifle Association says are needed to protect students from shooters. A school police officer, a teacher who moonlights in law enforcement, a veteran sheriff. Yet in a span of 48 hours in March, the 3 were responsible for gun safety lapses that put students in danger. The school police officer accidentally fired his gun in his Virginia office, sending a bullet through a wall into a middle school classroom. The teacher was demonstrating firearm safety in California when he mistakenly put a round in the ceiling, injuring 3 students who were hit by falling debris. And the sheriff left a loaded service weapon in a locker room at a Michigan middle school where a 6th grader found it. All told, an Associated Press review of news reports collected by the nonprofit Gun Violence Archive revealed more than 30 publicly reported mishaps since 2014, including firearms brought onto school grounds by law enforcement officers or educators, guns went off by mistake, were fired by curious or unruly students, and were left unattended in bathrooms and other locations. If this can happen with a highly trained police officer, why would we give teachers guns? Interim Superintendent Lois Berlin of the Alexandria, Virginia school system asked after the incident involving the officers where the accidental discharge put a bullet through a wall at George Washington Middle School. He was placed on leave and is under investigation. Amid a nationwide push to arm teachers or add more police officers and armed guards, the AP review suggests that doing so will almost certainly have unintended consequences. The accidents are rare, but the actual number is probably higher because the schools are not required to report them, and they have frightened students, outraged parents, prompted disciplinary and criminal investigations, and left at least 9 people injured. Some insurance companies have refused to cover schools that follow non-law enforcement personnel to be armed, and many school employees have said in surveys that they would feel less safe if more of their colleagues were carrying weapons. Nevertheless, calls to encourage districts to add more armed educators and officers have intensified since February the 14th. The shooting rampage at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, that left 17 students and educators dead. Speaking Friday to NRA convention in Dallas, President Donald Trump called for allowing trained teachers to carry concealed weapons in schools, along with more armed security guards. He said the best deterrent to would-be school shooters is the knowledge that their attacks will end their life and end in total failure. He added, when they know that they're not going in. In March, the White House pledged to provide aid to state and local agencies to provide firearm trainings for school personnel and to recruit more veterans and retired officers into education. At least a dozen states have considered bills this year that would encourage more armed officers, security guards, or teachers in public schools. Supporters of allowing more school personnel to carry weapons argue that proper training would prevent such incidents. It's usually the person behind the gun who determines the outcome, she said Kansas State Senator Dennis Pyle, a Republican and supporter of a stalled bill that would have prohibited insurance companies from charging unfair, discriminatory rates to schools that arm their staff. A representative of the NRA declined to comment on the AP findings. Sean Simpson is among the educators who have said publicly they would be willing to have firearms training, but the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas science teacher recently had his own mishap. He was charged after leaving his loaded handgun in a public restroom at a crowded beach pier in April. An intoxicated homeless man found the weapon and fired it before Simpson snatched it back, authorities said. The National Association of School Resource Officers has raised concerns about allowing teachers to be armed, saying they may not have the training to use guns effectively during a high-stress situation or to keep them secure. The group is pushing for an officer in every public school instead. Executive Director Mo Kennedy, a former school resource officer in Alabama, said he believes accidental discharges and other mistakes involving school officers' guns are much more rare than people might think. When you've got 20,000 officers in schools across the country, things can happen. There's no perfect situation, he said. Earlier this school year, a 5th grader in St. Paul, Minnesota, managed to pull the trigger on a gun in an officer's holster, firing a bullet into the floor. The same day in Florida, a parent discovered a school resource officer's gun in a faculty bathroom. A deputy's gun went off in Michigan last fall during a struggle with a high school student. It just never goes away. For 11 years, Val Jones Baker would not visit her husband's grave. She also didn't attend his funeral in 2007. Jones Baker was in denial, never letting go of the grief, the dark, gloomy sadness that loomed over her daily life. I went into hermit mode. I literally walked away from the world. I walked away from everything I had been a part of, she said. I had to reinvent me. Everything in this area drained me. Her husband, Weldon Baker, was shot November 2nd, 2007, when he happened upon a robbery as he was moving out of the Ponderosa Apartments on the northern end of Wichita Drive near Santa Fe Drive. The 47-year-old retired Army sergeant was struck in the femoral artery and died. His killer has never been found. The case remains an unsolved homicide for the Fayetteville Police Department. It just never goes away, said Jones Baker, who is 62 and a former radio personality. It's those times when you least expect it, and it has been 11 years. About 12:45 a.m. on November 2nd, 2007, Baker and Jones Baker were loading a moving truck outside the apartment at 5456 Wichita Drive. They were leaving town for a job in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Another man, police said, stopped to help Baker hitch a trailer to a car. The two noticed a couple of men on the upper landing of the apartment complex. One carried a television out of a second-floor apartment. Something seemed fishy to Baker, a retired Army cook. One of the men told Baker's helper that the TV had been given to the people who lived in the apartment, according to the documents from the time. The man said the occupants had been asked to leave, but Baker became suspicious, the document said, and he yelled at the two men as they started down the stairs. It would be an act of bravery that cost him his life. The suspected robbers began shooting, and a bullet pierced both of Baker's legs. It severed his femoral artery. I just lost the love of my life, an emotional Jones Baker said at the memory. This was an Army vet. This was somebody in the First Persian Gulf War. This was a veteran who served his country. According to police, her husband had stumbled upon a robbery. They went by the book. They shot him in the leg, not meaning to kill him. Problem is, Jones Baker said, they shot him in the femoral artery. I didn't care to know that they didn't mean to kill him. The fact is, they did kill him. Sergeant Terrence Phillips, who worked with the Fayetteville State University Department of Police and Public Safety, but in November of 2007, he was a detective with the Fayetteville Police Department. He investigated Baker's case. Once the suspected robbers started shooting, Baker and his helper ran behind the apartment building. That is where Phillips found Baker. He was dead, Phillips said. The other guy wasn't injured at all. Over his 10-and-a-half-year career with the Fayetteville Police Department, Phillips said Baker's murder is the only one he has worked on that remains unsolved. He still thinks about it, particularly when he drives by the area of the shooting off Yadkin Road. I just remember that night vividly. It was just unusual, said Phillips, who is 46. He was just minutes from leaving, and he's putting the last few things into the truck, and then he's murdered for no reason. Before the couple ever met, Baker would call into Jones Baker radio show where she was working at Fayetteville Urban Station WZFX, Foxy 99. She spent more than 33 years in radio, including stints with WZFX, WIDU, and WDKS, the former D103 that has since changed call letters to WRCQ. I didn't meet him for years, she said. He was one of my favorite callers. He would call me every night. The two ended up running into each other at the former Winn-Dixie grocery store on Murchison Road. After passing in the supermarket, they ended up exiting at the same time. Baker made a joke about a sticker on her vehicle. Both were married at the time. Jones Baker said her marriage was unraveling. She described their relationship as like the Romeo and Juliet story with the family. Baker's family, she said, did not accept her. Her siblings opposed the relationship. His siblings opposed the relationship. He was so much fun. He was a funny guy, she said from her mobile home in Spring Lake. She has lived in the trailer for 3 years after relocating from Fayetteville. Because of her job, Jones Baker was living in the Wichita Drive apartment at the time her husband was killed. Baker was living near his family in a mobile home in Roland, his hometown. In a May 27, 2008 story in the Fayetteville Obsever, his siblings said what they missed most about Baker's loud laugh. Their brother's dream, they said, was to open a business where he and his sisters would be partners. Jones Baker remembers another side to her husband. Baker, as she still calls him in conversation, was a complicated individual. He suffered from post-traumatic stress after 10 years of military service, including a deployment to Saudi Arabia. He was disabled. He was medically disabled. Phillips said he would love to see the case solved, especially since it was the only one he investigated that went unsolved. But even more so for him, he said it would be great for Baker's family, especially his wife. I remember that case very well, he said, particularly because that was one of those cases. It was kind of like out of a movie. It was nighttime. For me, it was a nighttime call out, very cold and windy. That's one of the first things I think about. Jones Baker says she is having to make justice and peace for herself. Photos of her husband have been taken down inside her home because they were reminders. Last month, on April 23rd, Jones Baker paid her first visit to her husband's grave. He is buried in the Mount Pelier Presbyterian Church Cemetery in Roland, in nearby Robeson County. She described her visit as surreal. It was rainy and windy. She didn't want to do it, but she forced herself to find the church. The closer she got to his grave, the rain picked up and the wind blew harder. Eventually, I found it and started to cry, she recalled. As I was kneeling by the grave, a bit of branch just fell off and fell on the grave. My friend said that was Baker's way of saying, "You're going to get on with your life." By going to the grave, Jones Baker added, "I finally had my final goodbye." Williams made right decision, but should accept blame. Tyrone Williams is no longer the man against the city of Fayetteville. I applaud his decision to resign his city council seat on Thursday. Just the previous day, I predicted he would go all the way, that he would fight against his inevitable removal from the council at the hands of his 9 fellow council members. But Williams, who represented District 2, did not fight. He walked, explaining his decision in a 3-page letter. "I'm really happy to be wrong. Ask my wife. But this is one case where I am thrilled. I also don't tend to beat up on folks when they do the right thing, even if it took some pressure for them to get there. We all need some convincing sometimes. However, I do wish Williams would stop fronting, playing like he's an innocent babe in this matter. He was accurate in his letter when he wrote, I know that my meeting with Mr. Jordan Jones of Prince Charles Holdings, LLC, on December 2017 has caused turmoil for the city. He heaped blame on the media for his resignation, a standard tactic for people caught in the act. But we all heard the recording where he tried to get $15,000 from Jones on the false claim that the previous Prince Charles Hotel owner owed him money. Williams and his lawyer, Chris Pop, have made much of how Williams said toward the end of the meeting with Jones that lawyers should review the transaction. The implication is that the ex-councilman always intended for his deal to be above board. But the ethical way to do this deal, if Williams had a legitimate claim in the first place, would have been to involve the city attorney from the get-go and to do it in the public eye. We shouldn't need a secret recording to know what our public officials are up to, especially when it comes to public-private investments worth multiple millions of dollars. Councilman members work for us and are on our dime. Williams did do right on Thursday, but we would not be here if he had not done wrong in the first place. Some people have asked how his District 2 seat will be filled. The short version is that there will not be a new election. Candidates will apply for the job, and the council will vote to pick someone. The last time the council had to vote to fill a vacancy was in December of 2010. Wesley Meredith resigned from his District 9 seat on the council so he could take the state Senate seat he had won that November. 6 candidates vied for the seat. The council deadlocked 5-5 in choosing between the 2 of them. businessman Jim R. and Tony McKinnon, a postal union leader. DJ Hare, a current council member who was then mayor pro tem, voted to break the tie and sided with ARP. ARP has won the seat in his election since then. He was the only council member with no opponent in the crowded 2017 voting season. District 2 encompasses downtown, includes some of the most economically strapped parts of the city. It has been over the years some of the most diverse and colorful members. It has had over the years some of the most diverse and colorful members on the council. They include Ida Ross, a stalwart from the post-civil rights era, libertarian-minded and outspoken businessman Paul Williams, sharp-witted community advocate Mabel C. Smith, Katie Ann Davy Foster, who was very reserved but with an independent streak, and Charles Evans, a current Cumberland County Commissioner who came in as an outsider and who has since become one of the county's more influential political figures. As of yet, I have no insight to offer on who might put their hat in the ring for the newly open seat in District 2. Chiropractor Dan Cullerton, who finished just over 300 votes behind Williams in November, has announced on Facebook he intends to file an application for the seat. At the start of the primary season, the district drew 10 candidates, more than any other. It was an open seat vacated by Kirk DeVere, who is running for state senate. The baseball stadium under construction downtown and related development on the site of the old Prince Charles are part of the district. Williams had been rightly blocked from voting on the projects by his fellow council members because of his conflict of interest. The district needs a vote and a voice on this issue, but what the citizens of District 2 need most is council members who will honor his or her commitment to public trust. This concludes our reading of the Sunday Fayetteville Observer. Your radio host has been Wanda. Coming up next, a broadcast of the Harnett County News, the Rayford News Journal, and the Robesonian. I've enjoyed being with you this evening. Thank you for tuning me in, and have a wonderful day.